Hello and welcome to the Garden of Grace devotion. My name is Pastor Katie, and today I have a special guest joining me on the Garden devotion. This is Lyle Helgerson. Hi, Lyle.
What do you do?
I asked Lyle to join me today because I'm continuing the series on the road to Emmaus. Times when Jesus has walked with us, but perhaps we didn't really notice Jesus' presence, God's presence, until we looked back, and then we saw it. And so I asked Lyle if he might have such a story, and he told me that he has a couple, I think. Lyle, would you share with us?
I will do that. I wasn't actually going on the road to Emmaus. I was on Highway 78 heading for Trinity on 8:30 church service back in the middle of January of 2025. It was a nice Sunday morning, clear, very light traffic, and a car turned left right smack dab in front of me. I had absolutely no time to even attempt to stop. And there was one tremendous crash. There was, I had luckily had my seatbelt on, the airbag deployed, which I had never experienced before. When things kind of settled, the car door was open. I was sitting in the seat, and I seemingly, other than having had an abrupt stop, I seemed to be pretty good. I was missing my glasses, and hearing aids were gone. My instinct was to get out of the car, and then something told me, well, maybe you better sit here a minute or two. So I waited for the paramedics and the police. They showed up, and with assistance, I got out of the car, and they kind of checked me out and so forth. And I felt pretty good. And they gave me the option. You could go on home, or give me a ride in the ambulance to the emergency room to be checked out. And I thought, something told me I probably better do that, so I did it.
Good choices, Lyle. Good job.
At any rate, that was, I got to thinking, had they said that I could go home, I don't know how I would have gotten there, but then that's another story.
That's a fair point.
So anyway, they got to the emergency room, and it was pretty clear as I was riding there that I probably hadn't been alone in that car. Because ordinarily, 2 months earlier, Hay would have been sitting in that passenger seat, and I don't know how that would have been had she been hit in the face with a 100 to 200 mile airbag coming at her. I mean, I had the steering wheel around me, so at any rate, that was just a passing thought I had. At any rate, I got to the emergency room. They weren't busy, took me in right away. Started running some tests on me, and by that time we'd gotten a hold of Krista and Kaya, my daughter and granddaughter, and they were at Trinity, and they came to my emergency room, and pretty soon the doctor came back. Everything seemed to be going well, and he said he got some good news and some bad news. And I said, "What's the good news?" And he says, "You got one broken rib." Well, I thought, I guess that's good. I had endured 4 broken ribs in the past, and that didn't seem to be too bad. But then I said, "Well, what's the not so good?" Well, he says, totally unrelated to the car accident. He said, we discovered that you have an abdominal aorta aneurysm. It sounds pretty ominous to me. I'm not medically, but basically it was a ballooning of the aorta that, generally speaking, when you have a scan, I guess that's one of the things they check out is the arteries and all that. But all it meant was the aorta was ballooning, and they said if it gets much above 4 or 5, they start to be concerned. Mine was 6.5. Well, his advice was, as soon as you can, this was a Sunday, as soon as you can, you call a surgeon. And so that was on my list for the first thing Monday morning. Chris got me, we got home, and I'm actually feeling pretty good. And must have been somewhat urgent because I didn't even have to call the surgeon. The surgeon called me about 9 o'clock in the morning and said she wanted to see me ASAP. So I was going to go in the next day. Well, fortunately, weather moved in, and for the next couple of days, I couldn't get to the doctor's office, nor could she. So we finally, after a couple of days, I got in there, and she basically promptly scheduled me for surgery. And she said we should be able to do it in about an hour and a half. So it was set up sometime in not too many days after it actually happened. So went in at 6 o'clock in the morning. Krista brought me over, and she was going to stay. And well, 7 hours later, I get to the recovery room. They had run into some complications where they couldn't do it the easy way. They had to do it one of the harder ways, but not the hardest. They could have had to split my chest. And I know there's a lot of people who've been through that, but I was fortunate I didn't have it quite that extensive. But I did have a 2-week recovery period and recuperation, and the significant aspects of after the surgery recovery. Thankfully, it went very well. It was almost pain-free. I couldn't believe it. And there is absolutely no question in my mind that although I wasn't joined along the way, I think I was joined the minute I left the car and left home on that Sunday morning. I had God as my co-pilot, and he stayed with me the entire period of time, and had that car accident not occurred, I don't know when they would have discovered the other part, because I never even thought about the broken rib. That kind of took care of itself, I guess. My concern along the way, once I found out about the other thing, that occupied my mind. But I was convinced I was in good hands, and I certainly was.
Indeed.
That's my story.
What an incredible story. I mean, and you would, as you say, you wouldn't have known about it. You wouldn't have known about it had you not gone to the hospital that day. And I'm so thankful you did, and that you didn't go home.
Right.
You know, you listened to that still small voice, it sounds like, and you went on.
Subsequent to that, I've had visits. I've been scanned a couple of times and met with a surgeon to follow up, and met with a cardiologist, and they seemingly are very, very pleased with the overall progress and the lack of any ongoing problem. I have one upcoming follow-up. This would be about a little over a year after the surgery, and they said that the question I'm going to ask is, because I've thought about it, but I haven't asked it. I was going to ask, well, what would have happened had we not discovered it? Because I had no scan or nothing really planned to find out that situation. I don't know how volatile it was, but the fact that the first thing out of the doctors at the emergency room was, you see a surgeon and you see one now. Put all the urgency I needed into it.
And then you didn't even have to make the call, right? They called you.
That's right.
So, well, thanks be to God for God's presence with you in all of those ways. And Thank you for sharing your stories with us today, Lyle. Thank you to those of you who have watched, and I pray God's peace for you today and always. And if you'd like to share your Road to Emmaus story, feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear it. Take care.